The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us on our second segment of today on our Durian Heat, where we bring you discussion on critical issue in Southeast Asia.
Right, and today we have a very interesting and also a very intense topic that's been concerning the region for quite some time now. And we also have somebody who will be joining us much later in the second half to give us a more detailed insight. But first of all, when it comes to terrorism, it's a very complex issue that we're still trying to understand. That why is it so easy for them to preach their idea and get so many people to just drop everything and leave and join this terrorism?
There's a lot of theories on why terrorism happened, but one of the interesting part of what is happening right now globally is the formation of ISIS, which is totally different from past terrorist activities by Muslim fundamentalists. You saw before Al-Qaeda making the move during 9/11. Of course, there were pockets of terrorism happening in the Middle East and Western countries. But when it comes to Southeast Asia, terrorism is a relatively new term. Of course, the first thing that came to our mind would be the Bali bombing, and also what happened with southern Philippines with the Abu Sayyaf terrorist group. But at the same time, I think the definition is still very much contentious because a lot of people still do not know how to define what exactly is terrorism. So, Gowri,
Yeah.
when it comes to terrorism, why majority of the recruiters, those are being recruited, are young people?
I think it has a lot to do with the promises that's being given to them. I think a lot of young people, especially at that age when they are transitioning from young adulthood into adulthood, and that's when they are the most curious and they want to explore different things. And usually terrorism happens as a reaction to something. Can be a dissatisfaction towards the current government, can be dissatisfaction towards the economic situation in the country, and most of all, it comes from the feeling of wanting to actually contribute to the nation or to some cause that they think is worth fighting for. And of course, in the case of ISIS, religion is being used as the main sort of focal point, that this is what we will be fighting for and this is what you should be standing up for, because ultimately you're here to serve God and do your job, you know.
So there you go. There's a lot of different reasons, and of course, religion is being used as one of the fundamental tools for terrorist activities or terrorist recruitment. And later on, we will talk to Professor Dr. Aruna Gopinath. She's the Senior Fellow and Desk Officer for the Southeast Asian Affair for the Center for International Defense and Strategic Studies based in National Defense University of Malaysia. And of course, she will also be sharing on the ISIS activities in Malaysia as well as in Southeast Asia. She will also be defining what terrorism is all about and how can we deal with it or address the issue as a nation and as well as individuals. But before we go with her, we will have a short clip on how you define terrorism by Vice.
Terrorism is something that has become really misconstrued.
What is truth? Where are you getting your news from?
Go to the people. Ask us what we're going through.
We asked people around the world what they thought the big issues were. This is one of them.
I live in Israel.
Tokyo, Japan. I'm in London, in England.
I'm living in Gopinath.
We're in Mexico City. Now I don't feel safe in my everyday life.
Terrorism is a worldwide problem.
My name is Lin Fatouh, also known as Malika, and I'm here in Beirut City, Lebanon. You see, when you go to people that are religious but are not educated because they come from the lower class, and you tell them, if you don't do that, God will put you in hell, you'll do anything.
Security is mostly a superstition. The main goal of terrorism is to alter the status quo.
I have two options. The first option is bad, and the second more bad.
My name is Sami Halabi. We're here in Beirut, Lebanon. The root causes of terrorism are socioeconomic and religious.
Because they don't have a knowledge, education, whatever their elders say, they do that.
Wow, how to say it in English? It's the human mind and soul that are not taken care of. When we will realize that we should look inside and not outside. Why we like to hate. This is when something will start to change.
When discourse stops and we want to cancel the other, that's where terrorism is. The cancellation of the other without any comprehension for the other.
Even though it's usually used as a tool to kind of gain attention to a very personal or political or religious cause, it still leads to death. It makes for great news stories and important news stories, and in that sense it's difficult because it'll always gain coverage, even though it's representing the views of a very small sect of society.
I think governments really should hold their hands up when it comes to terrorism. In my opinion, governments are the actual terrorists. They're the ones that have an ideological way of thinking and being, and then try and impose that on another country. I think some reflection on the part of governments needs to be done.
My name is Mo Ali Nair. I come from an Arab country. Terrorism is affecting me on a personal level. When you bomb a wedding and kill a whole family and one child is remained alive, what do you expect from this child to contemplate after that?
I live in Tel Aviv.
There are so many problems.
I think it will always be terrorism here.
When you're not sure if you're going to live the next day, that's also hurting your human rights.
The best way to fight terrorism is just being strong against those hostile groups and using the iron fist.
You want to talk to me with fire? I'll answer you with fire.
Terrorism comes from long-grown hatred, a cultural gap, and you need to try and close that gap.
It's the civilians and the people on the ground that hurt the most.
The people of my generation want to stop terrorism.
That's the job of the journalist, is to really put things into perspective.
The media should teach kids how to think and how to look at each other and ourselves.
Start judging. When you start judging, you start hating, and that forms terrorism.
I think terrorism can be overcome by the power of solidarity, and this might sound naive, but by the power of love amongst humanity.
Let us know how you think we should cover the news with hashtag Vice News.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, good morning. This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us on our Durian Heat, where we bring you discussion on issues that concern Southeast Asia. So today we will be speaking with Professor Dr. Aruna Gopinath. She's the Senior Fellow and Desk Officer for Southeast Asia Affairs, as well as part of the Center for International Defense and Strategic Studies. And she'll be sharing with us more on ISIS in Malaysia as well as in Southeast Asia. She will also be discussing with us on the definition of terrorism and how can we address the issue at hand. So first of all, thank you for coming to Durian ASEAN.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. You forgot that the university I come from is the National Defense University of Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, National Defense University of Malaysia, and your core focus is on defense.
Yes.
And terrorism in this region.
Yes, I work on terrorism, counter-terrorism, and on Southeast Asia, from Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, and South Thailand.
Mm-hmm. Right. Maybe perhaps you can give us a little introduction to what terrorism is all about and why does it happen at all?
You see, it's very difficult to say now, what is the major causes of terrorism. At one point, we can always turn to the reason being poverty. You know, in the early 70s, when you talk about terrorism in South Philippines and South Thailand and all, it was basically a terrorism that, the poverty that pulls them to join the group, the militant group. But today, it is no more poverty. All of them have become, these groups, the militant groups have become so rich that they don't need money as such, But now it is using technology, who is intelligent enough to join them, to provide the knowledge, say, for example, those involved in or specialized in engineering, technology. So these are the people being roped in today. Basically, if you look at terrorism as a whole, it is basically to go against an order which they feel has not given them what they deserve. So it is like, venting their anger towards the government or venting their anger towards, the world order. And also, number two, you can also say it is against imperialism, meaning the Americans. Because they don't like any, whites or any Europeans in control of the region. So this, of course, imperialism, this goes way down in history. You see, whenever a colonial power comes, there's always somebody to go against them. So this has also been one of the reasons going against the United States. All right? But the reason, if you look at it today, it's very, very difficult to identify what is the reason for a 14-year-old boy to go and join a terrorist group.
Oh, a girl. Yeah, all the way they became the bride of one of the ISIS militant members.
Yes, because, you see, at 14 years old, I wonder how much he would have read or how much he would have known about the ISIS. But then you see how the brainwashing goes now. Indoctrination. You see, they are all being told that they are fighting for a cause and, in the will of God. So the jihadis, as they are called, are now fighting in the will of God, which is, I think, if you read the Quran, that is not what the Quran tells you. It's actually, when we see it, it's a deviant teaching of Islam. And that is why we in Malaysia, we do not support it, because we believe in the moderation. We do not say that militancy is part of Islam. So that is why we do not want to support all these people, and we do not think that it is the right move that they are doing.
But when it comes to the whole brainwashing that you were mentioning earlier, like for example, a 14-year-old boy can join a terrorist group. But I think generally the word terrorist or terrorism itself, of course, has a very negative and a fearful meaning to it. So how do they actually get beyond that and manage to repackage themselves, or also, to project themselves as something cool that everyone can be a part of? Like if you want to fight against an order, this is the way to do it. Just join a terrorist group. That's the solution.
The thing is, you see, when you join a militant group, you are becoming a hero. Don't forget that. And at 14 years old, people are, these youngsters, their minds are all, out to grab, some kind of ideas where they feel they can show their prowess, and become a hero themselves. And so this, you see, when I was working in South Philippines and in Mindanao region, the youngsters that I met who were only 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds, and I used to ask them, how come you people have all joined this group? And the Abu Sayyaf and MIF and all at that point. And, when you should all be in college. And they tell me, because we have been hungry for days, and there's nobody to look after us. Now these are the people who now provide us food, give us a pair of clothes, and give us arms to fight. So yes, we want to show that we can also. They're trained. They're trained as militants, as soldiers. So they're very proud to carry a gun or a rifle, and to show that they can be a hero. So 14-year-old, the mind only works on that. You give a 14-year-old a gun, oh boy, he's so happy to go around shooting around, Even if you give him a toy gun, he'll be very happy, you know. So the brainwashing is such that when you die, you're going to die for a good cause, you know, and you are overthrowing the evil people, and you know you are going to clear the path, you know, for the good people to go to heaven. So this is the kind of you know, stories they tell them. Now I think this is where the wrong teachings come in, you know, because you cannot just simply say you know, you are going to heaven or hell or whatever. Because I think, you know, the right Islamic teachings, you know, the right Ustad should tell them, you know, what is actually a jihad. Most of them, I think, do not understand what a jihad is. You know, they think, you know, it is some fun going and joining a big group and then, you know, carrying a gun and fighting and then getting killed, and then you are a martyr. When you say you are a martyr, you are a hero, you know. So this is how they start influencing the minds of youngsters. So even women have gone in. Today, young women have gone in. Doctors have gone in. You know, a woman doctor has been recruited. And you find that the recruiter, the person who comes to recruit youngsters or women or whatever, they are all being paid, you know. They are paid in the sense that if you can recruit, then it is about $2,000 to $3,000 per head.
So it becomes like a MLM system now.
Yes, so you'd get about $2,000 to $3,000, which is a big amount. Almost close to 10,000 ringgit, you know. So the more people you collect, the more money you get. So this is the reason why they are recruiting people. And then, of course, as a friend, if you know the person, then you will say, yes, this is my friend, I'm going to support my friend. You know? So the brainwashing is main cause of all this, indoctrination, and then trying to say that, you know, if they go to Syria and die as a martyr, they establish themselves as a big hero, which I think is very wrong. Okay.
I would like to focus on terrorism in Malaysia, especially on IS. This is regarding on the recent news of Murad Halimuddin Hassan as well as his son. It seems like when it comes to IS penetration in Malaysia, it is hereditary. And why this is happening? Why terrorism has become such a serious issue in this country, but nobody is actually taking concern on it?
Oh no, we have had experiences in the last year. If you look at it, our government, the police have been working very closely, you know, and they have kept their nabs on all these militant groups who are growing. But you see, we never want to talk too highly about each group because we don't want to frighten our people also, right? So they silently, but the police is doing a very good job. They're working very close with the army. Now, if you look at, now Dawood is one a person that has come out, father and son. Father and son has become very close and they go in. Last year we also had, a person, a government officer, was arrested. He was from the, the Energy, Green Technology and Water Ministry, and he was also, arrested. Then we see lecturers, Mahmoud Ahmad, who was known as Abu Hanzala, and then sundry shop owner, Muhammad Najib. These are all leaders of a local militant group that trains members to fight in Syria and Iraq. Then we had another person, Muhammad Joraimi, who was from Sulayam, municipal council employee, and with his friend, he was also known as Abu Nur. And they come here, there are people who have been identified to recruit, members inside into the group and be sent to Syria. We had 14 suspected militants last year. And then we identified 2 women also who were the main recruiters. And these women were a simple housewife and widow who were the key movers in getting the Malaysian female undergraduates to head to Syria to join the IS. Now you will ask why women have come in. Now women have got some maternal instincts, okay, and they can add to the effectiveness of these young girls who want to join the militant group. Now these fellows who return, those who return from Syria also, they act as posted boys. We call them posted boys. You know, in the sense they will share their experiences. You know, and when they share their experiences about war and, you know, fighting this person and killing the other, you see, they all get excited here. So, last year itself, in October, we should see around 18 arrests have been made, you know, including the 14-year-old. You know, we have made the search and we have arrested them. So,
is that a common reason in terms of their who they pick and choose as their recruiters or participants for IS?
Yes. In the first stage, it will be mainly their close friends. All right? Then the news goes round, and their close friends will also, you know, influence their close friends. So it can be a particular group in an area, you know. And then also sometimes it could be a lone wolf. He can be a lone wolf, meaning a very depressed man who has got nothing to do, but he wants to join and serve and show that he can also be, you know, some, you know, one what you call famous person. So as long as they have access to firearms.
In terms of ethnic identity, are they all Malays when it comes to Malaysian?
Yes. At the moment, they are all the Malays and, of course, Indonesians. These are the two groups that we have targeted. Of course, in the Philippines, we got the Moro groups, okay? But in Malaysia, it's basically the Malays who have gone in. And then you find that when they are recruited, they are placed as under the group called the Mujahideen Tanah Gowri, you know, in Syria. So they will be sent like training for combat zones, while their wives and their children will be placed in shelter homes. And then those who don't have experience will be sent for military training. And then you see, you must understand, Malaysia has always been a transit point, you know, for Thailand, for people from Thailand to come in. Also from Indonesia. So, and then it serves as a breeding ground.
I see. That's it's a very serious matter. It seems like the development of terrorism in Southeast Asia has become much more sophisticated than before. But anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we'll discuss more on this issue regarding on terrorism in Malaysia as well as in Southeast.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
You're still with us on our Durian Heat and of course our discussion on IS in Malaysia as well as in Southeast Asia with Professor Dr. Aruna Gopinath of National Defence University of Malaysia. So continuing our discussion, I would like to ask about what is the current development of IS or terrorist activities in this country, Malaysia?
Okay, you see, we must not forget, right? Our leaders who are recruiting are mostly spiritual leaders, all right? Example can be the Ustaz Muhammad Lotfi Arifin, you know. He was from Kedah, a past member. And he was very active in the sense that, you know, he was able to influence the group. And, you know, unfortunately, he died on September 13 last year. And, you know, he was on the battlefield and he died. Actually, his idea was to battle the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad's regime. But that, with his demise, there's now a vacuum, you know, and there are now two factions that have come about, led by Akil Zainal and Ustaz Zainuri. Now, you see, these leaders, because they've got their spiritual knowledge, but they are not putting the right, teachings into the people. So this is where people get a little bit carried away. So youngsters, you find, of course, they look towards spiritual leaders, And they get carried away when they not realize, oh, this is the type of life that we would want to share. At the end, like sacrificing, you become a suicide bombers. Today, the youngsters are all taken in as suicide bombers. And you see, when you go to Syria, the Syrians are not going to, those who are involved in this movement, they don't use their own groups. They take our Malaysians, to be suicide bombers. And you notice that they are all brought over, the dreams which they had are all shattered because they are doing menial jobs like cleaning the toilets and, doing all the errands and becoming suicide bombers. They are not given the special treatment that they were promised in the Facebook. You see, all these Facebook stories that they read, it is not true when they go there. The young girls who have been told you'll be marrying this Syrian and that Syrian, unfortunately, it turns out to be a Malaysian that they're going to marry, right? So the girls are also being, lured into all this, and then you notice when they go there, it's a different world altogether. That is why some of them just want to come back home. But, that the understanding is not there. What is the group trying to do, and how come, they recruit youngsters without even telling them what they're prepared to do. So I think false teachings has been there, and these youngsters have got no idea whatsoever because they've not been researching enough. They just want to join a mass movement to show that, they're also militant. Okay?
But there's been some of them who actually managed to come back here, and I think if I'm not mistaken, there was one boy from Indonesia as well who actually came back and recounted his whole experience on how it's not really like what you were saying earlier. It's not really like the way they projected it to be. They promise you this sum of money and they say you get this opportunity and you get this job, but he explained to us that that's not really the case. He actually had to do a lot of menial jobs and all. And has that had any effect on the people who are actually thinking of joining ISIS?
Yes, I think so, yes. You see, when you listen to the stories, people get a little bit frightened also, and they say, should we go or not? But some are so determined because their friends are there. It is like joining the flock, If you don't be part of the ring, then you are out of the ring, So their friends are there. They say, no, for the cause of our friends, we should also be beside them. So that is the reason why you notice that most of them. But today, the recruitment is a little bit, I would say, lesser than what it was before. Because of the stories that we are receiving from abroad. And the fellows who have been on Facebook, you see, on Facebook they show all the battles and how they emerge. They have been able to cut off this head. You have seen some of the pictures, how they behead somebody and then they are laughing away because they are successful. But today it is not so easier to go and behead somebody, because the other side also, the soldiers are also prepared to fight with you. So you must be quite ready to be in battle. So training, they said they will train them. Now training also is not easy. It takes a few months before you can hold a gun or a rifle and go out on the war zones.
Right.
So this is why the youngsters are brought in to do all the dirty jobs. But it's so much easier for the youngsters to be trained as suicide bombers. You just go and blast yourself. So that has become very common with the young recruiters from Indonesia and Malaysia. Okay?
But with all this that's happening, when they actually go to ISIS and they go through all this probably torture and being exploited and whatnot, when they come back, although they do recount their story and they try to discourage more people from going, but are they actually can they become the same person that they were before they actually go there, or are they still somehow affected by the indoctrination that's been trying to do by ISIS?
Okay. Now, you see, when they come back, of course, if you are under the police, you will be imprisoned, okay? And then we are trying to use the rehabilitation method of trying to get them back to society. Now, if you're a young mind, it's okay. It's quite easy to come back. But if you are quite there for some time, and you're, the elderly group, that means experienced group, it's not easy, to go back to society again.
Right.
I've had experiences talking to defectors from the Abu Sayyaf group, who have been there for maybe more than 10, 15 years, and then they decided to throw off their arms and come out and then join society. Now, the most they can ever be outside, that means not with their group, outside, that means in their family, with their families or with their friends, is only 2 to 3 months. After that, they want to go back because the mind is such that it cannot be easily you can't easily accept the new environment, so they go back to the jungles again. The same thing is happening here because when you say rehabilitating, it is also another form of indoctrination, right? You have been told this is wrong, daily you have been talked into it. Now, young minds, yes, we can say yes, because he doesn't know anything, you say, okay, I should go back to my family. But the experienced group, no, it's not possible. So we have to keep our we have to really be careful about this group, the experienced group, and those who are considered themselves as spiritual leaders. When they come back, you can't tell a spiritual leader that what he is doing is wrong. He always has been thinking that what he has been doing is right. So you must have the right ustad, the right spiritual leaders to tell them where they are going wrong, And I think that is what is important today, because I think we have got, like even in Indonesia, there are so many madrasa schools and all that. But, whether the teachings are, the right teachings is another thing here too. I think we must take effort by our spiritual leaders to ensure that the right teachings are taught, not the deviant teachings. Then you go astray. Okay?
I want to ask you about the proportion of young people have gone to IS from Malaysia, Indonesia and other countries. In terms of proportion, seems like Malaysia has more people being recruited there compared to Indonesia in terms of percentage. Why this is happening? Why Malays, especially the young people, are easily seduced by the promises of IS?
Yeah, because you see, if I were to make an analysis of Indonesia and the Malaysians, maybe because of their exposure to, because Malaysia, we are very open, we are more of a, cosmopolitan. And we know how to deal with each community, compared to, say, Indonesia. Right? They are more, the ethnicity is not so open as compared to us, right? So they feel it's easier to inculcate these ideas by saying, okay, you amongst yourself, you call yourself democratic and all, but you see this race is against this race and that race against this race. So the racial sentiments are also being parked here, to say, all right, you have been denied a lot, whereas another community has been given everything and they are rising. So, to instill that hatred, it's easy to instill hatred with Malaysians, especially when you come from very poor homes, right? And so, you find that kind of hatred they have, okay, that is the kind of feeling, the sentiments they have, and they will go over, But I don't think that should have been the case, because a person, if he really wants to be a jihadist, right, he must know exactly what he stands for. And if he thinks that's the right move, go ahead. That is different, But when you are just following a crowd, the blind leading the blind, I don't think you will see good, effective results. Right? And you are only falling into the ditch. And that is where we are going wrong.
Let's talk about counter-terrorism in Malaysia. And one of the area that is quite controversial is the passing of a bill called the POTA Act, or the Anti-Terrorism Act in Malaysia. Tell us more about it. Do you think it will help to reduce the amount of terrorist activities in this country?
I think it should, because I feel that, when we have so many, troubled people around this area, in this country, the government has to take some very serious steps, because otherwise tourism will be affected, our own economy will be affected, and so forth. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, I feel that the bill has to be very effective, because once you catch them, we have what you call a detention order, not exceeding 2 years, and the 2-year order is renewable. They will not be have access to habeas corpus, or what you call legal aid. And then they are also having, they can be subjected to 5-year restriction order, because his movements are all limited to a specific area. And then the police officer may arrest without a warrant if he has reason to believe that the suspect is involved in terrorism. And then you can also say that if his offense is very serious, he is punishable with a jail term of not more than 5 years. He can be fined up to 10,000. And also you find that for 55 days they monitor you to see whether, you are really a serious person, or, sometimes you may not be, as I said, under a real hardcore militant, but you could be just an influence only.
But do you think it will be misused by the government for political reasons rather than to counter terrorism?
No, they have already mentioned that no political detainees. In this, it will only be those people suspected of terrorism. So I think since they've identified it, I think they will adhere to the rules. Because if political reasons, then of course, then we are going overboard,
Talking about the larger aspect in this region of terrorist activities, do you think in some ways that terrorism in Southeast Asia is getting gaining more and more prominence, and rather than it's in decline?
I would say it's rising. Yes,
it's rising.
Yes, I would say definitely from my own research, which I started from 1979. Right up till today, I will definitely say that it has risen to a large number. Because in South Philippines itself, you look at the numbers, how many numbers, we have. More than 200 to 400,000 militants are there. And then even in Malaysia now, the recruitment, they recruit from Malaysia, South Thailand. You see, all these, become breeding areas already.
And what, sorry to interject, because what is interesting from my personal observation is secular countries that has a separation between state and church, state and mosque, seems to be able to breed more potential terrorists to join ISIS rather than the other way around. And this trend seems to be very confusing and mind-boggling.
Exactly. We call ourselves democratic, secular, so forth. But you see what is happening. You see how the spiritual leaders have turned the ball the other way around and said, look, we are supposed to go against, all these corrupt ways. Because they say that the democracy is not the democracy that should be practiced. There's too much of corruption. They argue that way. There's too much of corruption, and they have not been given what they should be given. So I think it's because of, we have not been fair to all. When you execute or implement a law, or even whatever, you want to put across to the people, it should be across the board, Everybody should be able to get access to what they want. But here we find some groups are rising and some groups are really going down, And, especially if you go into the interiors, people are still suffering, We do not talk about it. Do you know how many people are still without food? Many people, you go into the interiors and you find they do not have many accessible things that we have. So they become easy targets. So they always say, they complain, when we don't have so many things, why do we have to support this government or that particular party or whatever? We, but rather join this militant group who is prepared to give us everything. You see?
And even countries as modernized as Singapore are seeing quite a sum of recruiters, recruit countries in Southeast, recruit Singaporeans, Malay.
No, so far we haven't seen so much of Singaporean Malays coming in, you know, because the majority are still from Malaysia, Indonesia, you know, and even South Thailand and Philippines. Singapore is still not, I don't see the numbers, but you have got one or two who have crossed over and tried to, you know, influence, but they were caught also. So the numbers have not swelled in Singapore. Because, you see, they are much more freer there compared to us here. You know, the Singaporean Malays is different, a little bit different, I would say. You know, at least they have, there's nothing hard and fast rules to stop them and say you can't do this and you can't do that. You know, they're free to do what they want. And as long as they follow the rules and regulations of the country. And they have not been denied, you know, the way that many of our Malays in the interior have been denied. You know, whether I can use the word denied or, you know, the right word. But I think when you don't get access to many comfortable means of living, your only recourse will be to fight back. And that is what Lotfi and all these people feel, you know, that they felt that, you know, going to Syria to topple the Shiites and all will be the right move because, you know, they feel that the Islamic teaching is that tell them that if something is wrong, you fight back. Okay?
So when it comes to addressing the issue in Malaysia in particular, what do you think would be the best way forward for governments as well as civil society to be able to counter terrorism in Malaysia?
First of all, actually, we also forgot to mention about the cyber terrorism, right? A lot of things are going on the net. Right, the Instagram and what you call the Facebook. So I think all this has to be monitored now. You know, if we can stop that, that will be also a good achievement. You know, because you know, people are being recruited based on. You see, today you don't know your leaders. At one point, people know who their leaders are. Today you don't know who your leader is. Only you know who your recruiter is. But you will not be shown the true leader. You know, even when they go to Syria, they don't know who the leaders are because you have young people all there who call themselves now leaders and they are the ones who start training. So, this cyber thing, you know, all this, we have to put a stop to that. And then number two, I think we must also be able to upgrade our security measures. You know, now, of course, ASEAN, we are doing, you know, we do the defense section. We are taking great moves to see how we can all cooperate, you know, to put a stop to this to this growing threat. Because don't forget, our borders are very porous. Right from Thailand to Singapore, you can just cross over. Immigration controls have been weaker, even though we have insisted that they should be very strict. The lax control, you know, of at immigration points. And then also, you see, we are also land. We are not only just by land. You cross over, you also have the sea. And, you know, our patrols at sea also, you know, have been, you know, not as strong as one could think it should be. So people see, for example, from Zamboanga, you can cross over to Sabah within less than half an hour, and then you can go back. So that's how all these people just jump over, you know, and cross over. So you have to be very strong as far as defense patrols are concerned, both on land and at sea. All right? And then also we have to check on the armaments. You know, we mustn't allow all these armaments to be on sale or whatever, pistols or whatever, because today it only takes one pistol to just, you know, create a threat. You know, like what happened in Sydney at the cafe. Just one man goes in, draws a pistol, and everybody is, just undercover already. So you have to be very careful in all this. Number 3, I would also suggest the right ustad get moving and, start talking about the right teachings of the Quran. The mosque, the ustads in the mosque and all will have to play a very, very strong role. Because I don't think they should be able to identify what is the right teaching and what is the wrong teaching. Why one is running away from the true teachings of Islam. So I think that is important. Yes.
So we are towards the end of our show now. Thank you very much, Professor Aruna, for sharing your views on this, and hopefully the terrorist activities in Malaysia will be able to address as soon as possible. But in terms of global trends, of course, the global community need to address this as well. With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I also hope that, things will simmer down and we are, in a position where we will be able to counter this threat. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.